Hi, welcome to another training movie for Roboflow. Today we are going to create a workflow that is going to import a tab limited text file. Could be a comma separated file, it doesn't matter, it's the same logic, it's how you can import metadata from a text file. So we're going to create a new workflow. I'm going to call it hot folder. Hot folder type workflow is a type workflow that looks in a folder and processes the files that are dropped in there. Import tab delimited file. Okay, so this is process newly dropped files in hot folder. The standard functionality of such a workflow is any file that is dropped in there is processed by whatever action script you have, and at the end the workflow will delete the file unless you set special parameters here in the action script, or if you copy it to another location, otherwise the file is lost. So here first we're starting with a folder where we want to put our files. So I have created a drop folder, so I'm going to select that drop folder. I could, if I want to make this generic and reusable, I select it in the application folder. I could just select here the application folder, so that it can be reused for anybody who likes to use this workflow. Before you can run it, you have to create in your application folder a folder called drop folder. File filters, well, I'm going to set that I only want to have txt files being dropped in here. You could even call them tab files, tab extension if you want to make sure no other, or CSV if you are going to process CSV. Good. And then the action script. In the action script, every file, those tab limited text files, are offered to the workflow and processed one by one. So the first file that comes in will be available here as a file called hot. So what will I do with that file? I go to the file folder actions, and I am going to store the text file as a table, an internal table, and like you know in Excel, rows and columns. It gives you the ability to create such a file, such a table. And here you can choose either it's a comma separated file, a semi-comma separated file, or a tab delimited file. So I'm going for tab delimited. Then sorted or unsorted, what's the difference? If it is important for you that the rows are processed in the exact order that they were created, that they were in the file, then you should have a unique column in there. Let's say that you have column number 1 is the unique file name or is a unique counter. Then you can set this to searchable and say that the search column, the unique column, is let's say column number 1. But in my example, I'm just going to use a tab limited text file for which I want to import metadata. So the order is not important. So I'm saying an unsorted table. File encoding, it's best not to touch that, but by default, it uses UTF-8 if your server, if your Java is running UTF-8. If you're running it on a Mac, if Roboflow is running on a Mac, then it's probably going to Mac Roman, which means that you need to provide your file as Mac Roman. If you want to provide it in another format, then you have to specify it here in the format. The output table, output variable, is the name of the tag that is going to be added as a label to this to this table that it's creating. So I'm saying tab table, and I always add some comment here because it makes it very readable. Good. So now I have in memory a table. So now I'm going to process that table. So I'm going to say process rows of a table. So process rows of a table. And process rows of a table is here this table. If there's a search value, you can put in a filter. You could say I only want to process the ones that start with or ends with or equals a certain value. In this case, I want to process all rows. Could be that your tablet in the text file has a header, so you can process that. You can specify that you do not want to process the first row. I'm not going to do that. And then I have an unsorted table, so that way he knows how to deal with this type of file. And then the output variable is a row. This is a row in my table, and then I'm going to process those rows. So what I am going to do with those rows in the table is I'm going to store a column from a row as text. So I'm going to say I want from my row column number 1, and if column number 1 doesn't exist, you can set the default value. But here I'm going to say output variable is record name as an example. Store column, and so I'm saying here that my output variable store column 1 as record name. And then I'm going to say new, and I'm going to store a second one. I could go to the same process, or I can say just copy paste, and I can say edit, and then column number 2 is, for instance, a category I want to create. So I'm going to say category. I want to create or assign a category. Category, and then number 3, new, copy paste. I'm going to say now I want to store column number 3, and here I'm going to say notes. So 3 as notes. So in a new version, Cumulus 9.2.4, instead of storing all these individual elements into these individual variables, you will also be able to talk to the table, to the row, sorry, putting them in square brackets and say I want element number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. I will show you in a moment. So I have now 3 values, and now I need to do a search in a catalog. If in your tablet in the text file there's also the catalog name, then you would say I'm going to open the catalog now with the name that I found in the tablet in the text file. If you're importing everything into one catalog, you can do that up front. So I can say new, I can say Cumulus catalog, open catalog, open catalog. Good. And then he's going to ask me which catalog do you want to open. Well, I'm going to import into the sample catalog, and like that I try to keep the naming convention a little bit simple. So I'm opening catalog, and what I always do is to make sure that I don't forget is immediately also add the close here of the catalog. Close catalog, and he asks me which catalog. The sample catalog. Again, close sample catalog. Up, just like that. Now I have my catalog, so here I can do a query. I'm going to search for the record, and I'm going to say Cumulus catalog. I'm going to do a find in the catalog, find records. Okay, and I'm going to do the sample catalog, and here Cumulus record query can be a stored query. You can test it, and the name of a stored query is possible too, but I'm just going to specify the query record name, then equals, and then look at this. If I click the hash and I click the hash again after a few seconds, I just have to wait 1 second in between, I get a drop down with all the existing variables, all the existing things, elements that were stored inside the script, and the ones that are stored in the global parameters, and the ones that are stored in your parameters of this workflow. So you don't have to go there. You say I want this one, and this is the syntax to talk to such a variable. And this is where I want to come back to, telling you that in the future, in version 9.2.4, you will be able to say, instead of having to store first what we did here, store first the record name of column 1 in a variable called record name, I can also address it like row square brackets 1, and that way you are immediately talking to row 1. And so instead of this record name, you could just say row 1. But on the other hand, this makes it more readable. We have a stored tag, a variable that is called record name, and we're using this. And then you have records found, so it could be multiple records. That's something we don't know. And now I'm going to say new, and I'm going to go to catalog, and I'm going to say process here, process records in collection. So this search result is a collection, catalog collection, and so we're going to process the records in this collection, just like that. Sample catalog. Mind you, this is not the name of the catalog, this is the name of the variable under which we stored this catalog. There's a difference. And here, output variable, how do you want to call this? Well, traditionally, processing files or processing records in a workflow is called hot, automatically by the workflow. So it suggests to call the record hot. That's not a bad thing. So process records in collection as hot. Don't worry that the file object here is called hot, that we are processing the tab limited text, and that this record is called hot, because in reality it's not called hot, but it's called hot file, and in reality the record is called hot record because it's a different type. If it were the same type, you should not do that. And now all we have to do is set the value. So we want to set the categories value. So I'm going the record value, but assigning a category. So I'm saying here set category field text value is one option, or set record field value. I will show you the difference. I will take first this one. Here I'm selecting the field. So which field do you want to set? I'm going to say under $categories. So you could say categories, and then you would have specified the whole path in your tab limited text file. Here I'm just going to say I want it directly under $categories, and even under import. And then here I just have to select the variable which I stored under the name category. So here I'm saying set I'm saying assign dollar category like that, and new. And now I'm going for Cumulus record again. I could have done copy paste. I'm going for the same thing because it's stored value. So I have a stored variable that's called notes. If I want to add the information to the field, I can prefix it with a plus, but in this case I just want to assign. And what do I want to assign? Well, that was column number 3 of my tab-limited text file, and I can just say notes equals notes like that. And then finally I want to show you an example of how to set a value that is not stored. I can say set text value. In that case I select a record, I set the field, and I choose the status field for instance, and then I can type a value, so imported could be one. Or if it's not a drop down field but another field where you would like to add for instance a date, and so you could here select date format, so like this, just date time, this, or these more exotic, or you could have added any other field information that you would want to add, but in this case I don't want that, so I'm just going for this imported. So I'm saying status equals imported like that. And now we've set 3 field values, we've processed it. Sometimes it's useful also to add a log information. So what I can do is I can say here in the workflow I can say notification, and in the notification I say write to text file, and here I can say row found, then we say okay. Here we can get to the stored record name, and then if we want to add the other information that we are going to add, we could just as well do that too. We could say okay and here then we would, oh that was stupid, here we could then say category. We can see the category row record found. We could say record found, and write text to log record found like that. Okay, so you could also add a test here and say test if, and the records count 1 equals null. In that case it would be null. You could add a log saying record not found, and so here you can say new conditional test text, and here I can say okay, what do? I want to go to records found 1 test text equals, so equals, and I say new, and so test if record found, if record not found, Control A, Control C, like that, and like that. Okay, and here underneath we then could add the notification. So here we could say text to write to log copy, and I'm doing here paste, and I'm doing edit, and here I'm saying record not found, and then yeah, it's enough just to specify that record, and I can say record not found. Okay, so that's basically it. The key instructions are here: importing that tab limited text file, saying tab limited or CSV, and then here opening the catalog, closing the catalog, and here doing a search, storing the individual elements, and then processing them one by one. This process could also mean if the result is null, for instance, in some cases, you could say create a new record and then set the values to that new record. That could also be an option, to have empty records as holding tanks, placeholders for files to come. The file path could be in the tab limit text file, where if not found, it could catalog the file, create a file object from that path, and then say catalog file. So a lot of options. If the catalog name is in the tab limit text file, you would here, after storing that catalog name, then first open the catalog, and the close catalog would be right after here. So inside this and not outside. But in this case, we're just using one catalog. So this was a simple example of how to create a tab and import workflow for tab limited text. And as you can see, it's very straightforward and has a lot of options of different things you could do, even importing into subtable fields, adding subtable entries, etc., etc. Thank you for joining, and see you on another training movie.